Somebody who needs to be part of the conversation of what does it mean if Biden is on the fall is the third party candidate, independent presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, he has said many times, I'm the only one who can beat Trump. And now, maybe that's true out of the three, but polls show that there are a lot of people that polling-wise would have a chance against Trump. But Bobby is a target because he is a threat, I believe, to the Democrats. Some will say to the Republicans as well. But either way, he's going to get hit. And Vanity Fair did just that today. They brought out an article that goes back and rakes through Bobby's closet, and there's plenty of skeletons in there. And they got allegations of past sexual misconduct, personal misconduct. Kennedy has responded to the allegations, and he did something unusual, I think, in this day and age. The playbook is Trump's, right? Deny, 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 deny. They're a liar. Vanity Fair's is fake news, blah, 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 right? Bobby did not deny them. He said, I'm not a church boy. I have skeletons in my closet. I am who I am. And you know what? That's good enough for me. You can find out what's happened in his past. I knew about it in real time. You want to know? You can know it's there. To me, I don't think those kinds of questions determine who should be and should not be leaders. I think it's about what he can do for you, not what you just think about him and his past. So I want to talk to Bobby about what's going on in the race and what it means for him, and he joins us now. Bobby, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Chris, happy to be here.
Do you believe Biden has to go, and do you think he does go?
I can't, I try not to make predictions, and I try not to do spin because it feels dishonest to me. But I think, if what KJP, his press secretary, was saying was that this was a bad night for him, and that could be true. If it is true, the way to dispel that is to do, is to come out in the open, do his own press conferences, do unscripted meetings, not only with George Stephanopoulos, but KGB said during that press conference, he's done 40 interviews over the last 6 months. I do 40 interviews a week. And you have a lot of, and not to just curated questions to friendly pundits, but to people who are very hostile to me, long-form interviews on podcasters that are exploring all different ways that I'm thinking. And, I think the American people deserve that. Town halls, debates, all of those kind of things, because this is the guy that we're entrusting. Take that call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And,
right.
When he's being pushed down, woken up out of his bed and pushed down the hallway, and he has to make a decision that's going to affect all of humanity and have tremendous consequences for our children. We need to have somebody who is, at the top of his cognitive capacity, who has mental acuity, has deep understanding of these issues that he can draw on. And I'm not sure that's it. The other thing that KGB said is, well, it doesn't matter if he's cognitively impaired because he's done such a great job over the last 4 years. Most Americans don't agree with that. Most Americans are fighting the worst inflation since the 1970s. They feel like they're being gaslighted. We have the biggest deficit, the ruinous deficit that's threatening that's threatening existentially our nation. We have the Sinaloa drug cartel running border policy. We have kids who can't get in a house for the first time in American history, a generation of children who's going to live worse than their parents. We have a chronic disease epidemic. We're embroiled in all of these wars. We're losing a war in Ukraine that they've been lying about. And, those issues. So I don't think he can run on that record. I think he needs to be able to come forward and assures that he can actually run the country and not just some anonymous men in lanyards who have never been elected and who appear to be calling their shots now at Washington.
Bobby, I think that there's a connection between what Vanity Fair was trying to do and some of what I've been hearing as I try to get a sense of the state of play by people who are in the analysis business and running numbers for different campaigns. Because when I look at your numbers, you know, and obviously you can find 10 different polls that tell you 10 different stories, but you have not been gaining as Biden starts to have more and more questions about him. Your numbers aren't popping, let's say that. And then I start talking to people, and then I see Vanity Fair, and it all seems to be part of a same fundamental misgiving, which is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not your typical Kennedy. He's a radical, and he has radical ideas, anti-vaxxer being one of them. You've explained your position here multiple times. I don't see you as an anti-vaxxer, but I understand the criticism. They're now calling out your VP choice, saying that she says that the government is satanically possessed. I don't believe that's a fair reading of what she said, but it doesn't matter. It seems that that's what they're doing with you, is that you are not a legit choice because you are a kook and your VP choice is kooky. What do you want people to know about that notion about you?
Well, I mean, I would say, Chris, you've been around politics long enough to know that, and you've seen what happened to Bernie Sanders, and you've seen what happened to people who challenge official orthodoxies, who challenge these power centers. There's never been a candidate in American history who has challenged, for example, the intelligence agencies and the CIA in the way that I have. I'm challenging the military-industrial complex, the big contractors, the big financial houses who I call out by name: BlackRock, Blackstone, State Street, Vanguard, Fidelity, the people who fund the Democratic Party, who fund the Republican Party. I'm calling out the pharmaceutical companies, the chemical companies, the big food processors, big ag, trillions of dollars that are at stake now, and people who do not want me in the White House. So these same corporations have given $3 billion to the DNC. The DNC has an unprecedented opposition research group that is digging up dirt on me. I'm having people called, people that I attended a 12-step meeting with 40 years ago who are getting the call from the DNC. People that I had, just literally hundreds of people looking for any shred of dirt about me. And then, Vanity Fair gave them a dumpster to put all this stuff in. You can tell, the quality of that research from the fact that they said that they did this story that I ate a dog. And they have a picture of me supposedly eating a dog. And, of course, it's not a dog. And they said I was eating a dog in Korea and that they had checked with experts, metadata experts, and identified it as Korea, and checked with veterinarians who validated that it was a dog, and it's a goat, and it's in Patagonia. And it's a river trip that I used to do on a big whitewater river called the Fu every year. And it's a big, kayaking trip that where that's what we ate. That's what everybody eats down there is goats. So, but the irony is Vanity Fair is the most persistent complaint against me is that I'm promoting misinformation, but that whole article is just a dumpster of misinformation. But that's what they're going to do. And we know they're going to do it. In fact, they say it in the article. We are going to destroy Robert Kennedy. So I think, but my feeling is that when I walk on the street, when I go through an airport, when I walk down the block in any city in America, and the enthusiasm for my campaign, the huge crowds that we're getting that are undiminished by this. And I think they've seen it before. They know that this is what the mainstream media does. So hopefully they'll read it with a discerning eye.
Bobby, I want you to have a discerning eye, too, and look out to see if people seem to not be bringing their pets to rallies where you're going to attend or any speech you're going to give. Listen, I got to tell you, I'll take you at your word. I've known you a long time. But how crazy a world is this? Could you have ever imagined that you and I would be talking on television? You're running for president, a grand ambition, and I'm asking you about whether or not it's true that you ate a dog. Can you believe that that's where we are? That's what Vanity Fair wanted.
There is nothing about
that's where we are.
There is nothing about this conversation that I could ever imagine even a year ago. So, that you are where you are, that and we've known each other for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, that I'm running for president and that I'm being accused of eating a dog. No, I would not believe any of those things. I am a very adventurous eater, Chris. I think you know about that about me. I'll eat virtually anything. There's two things I wouldn't eat. Well, three. I wouldn't eat a human. I wouldn't eat a monkey. And I wouldn't eat a dog. I think I'd eat anything else, but I just couldn't bring myself to do those things. So it is a goat, and you are what you eat.
The GOAT, the greatest of all time? Is that what you're saying about yourself, Bobby Kennedy? Such arrogance. Listen, this is going to be the most important phase of the race, the next 3 or 4 weeks. There may be big cataclysmic change in the Democratic Party. This is a period of reassessment. I don't think people have to, but again, I think they get to make a fresh appraisal. You have a platform here to make a case to the American people, as do all the candidates, and I wish you well in that process. Thank you for coming on and answering the questions.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Always enjoy being with you.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.